Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to talk about everything you need to do to a road legal e-bike to get it through the MSVA test. Right, where to start then? This is going to be interesting. So let's wind it back. I've created my high power e-bike, the one that you saw in the first clip of this video. So if you're interested in that bike and how it's been put together, then basically you can check out any of the videos on this channel. There's loads going back over the last 3 years where I've been working on this, building batteries, testing different motors and all the other things, associated with building that bike. So if you're interested in building the bike, go check those videos out first. So basically this is a high power e-bike. It can go above 15.5 miles an hour, which is the legal limit for a electrically assisted bike in the UK. So technically you can't ride this on the road unless you keep below 15.5 miles. Anyway, there's lots of grey areas with this and we're not going to talk about that in this one. But what I've been doing in the last few videos is I've been actually putting this bike, getting this bike ready to be properly road legal. So what we're going to do is we're going to register it as a moped and we can then ride it 30 miles an hour and you can ride it on a UK car licence if you've got a P endorsement on there. Not endorsement, I don't think it's called an endorsement, but basically if you've got a little P on your licence, it probably means you passed your test before 2001, so you can actually ride one of these things with no L plates, no CBT on a car licence. Pretty cool. And don't bother writing any comments about that because I've researched that extensively. Anyway, to get your bike on the road legally, there's a few things you need to do. You need to firstly get your bike road legal. So there's lots of things which we're going to cover in this video that you need to do before you can then go to the next step, which is put your bike through almost like an advanced MOT test. It's called the MSVA test. And what they basically do on this test is they just go through the bike, just make sure it's safe, and there's lots of other little bits and pieces that you need to kind of get right. So that's what we're going to dive into today. At the moment, just a little update on where I am with this process. So I've had the MSVA test, the bike's passed, I've got the certificate, I've sent off the V55 registration document and stuff to get this bike on the road, and now it's hit the DVLA and they're like, what is this? What is this bike? So they're taking a bit of time to work it out. Hopefully once they've done it, then it'll be a lot easier for other people because it's a very small bunch of people that work in the DVLA that handle with this. They're called the Kits and Rebuilds team. Anyway, so I'm waiting for them to issue a registration plate. It won't be a Q because it is a freshly new built bike. It's not been made from other parts of other bikes, so it's all new. So it will have a new registration plate. Maybe by the time it ends up coming through, it might be a 2020, but I think it's going to end up being a 2019. So if you're starting out on this process, the first thing you need to go and do is download the MSVA manual. I've mentioned this before. It's on the Gov website. Motorcycle Single Vehicle Approval Manual. Click on that, and then this is going to be your point of reference for like everything going forward with the bike. Now, you can see my internet is just incredibly slow at the moment, but this is a big old manual, 200 pages of this, and it's going to wear you out. Trust me, it's just a bit of a pain in the butt. But I'm going to go through most of the important things on here and show you, what I did on my bike to get this through. Now, I'm registering this bike as a moped, so the rules are a little bit more lenient, to be honest. And I would just do a moped before you kind of enter into doing a high-powered motorcycle like a 125 or something, because even if you're running 4 kilowatts, which this is what this is running at the moment, and that is the legal amount for a moped, so 4 kilowatts is quite a lot of power, to be honest. Your acceleration is going to be great, and then you have to limit the top speed to 30 miles an hour, to actually class it as a moped. Now in the test, they don't test the power and they don't test the top speed because presumably they've got no way of doing it. They haven't really got even got a rolling road, and they certainly haven't got any kind of gear to test motor output power. So it's just not complicated in that respect. All it is your declaration. So when you start filling out the forms and stuff, you basically just put what class of vehicle it is. So just put moped, electric moped, and then it has to be 4 kilowatts and a max speed of 30 miles an hour. But again, it's your declaration. It could go faster, but then if you get caught going faster and they do kind of reach into it and have a look, then that's when you'll probably have a potential problem. So this is the vehicle class, mopeds, 2-wheel vehicle, maximum speed of 28 miles an hour, so it's 28 not 30, fitted with an internal combustion engine having a cylinder capacity not exceeding 50cc or a motor with 4 kilowatts. So perfect, and that's L1E, that's the classification, so that's what you're going to be doing, an L1E bike. So you can read a lot of other information here about the test and how they test it and all the other bits and pieces, but really what you want to do is just work through these and you'll come to things that are relevant to what you're doing. So in here it says stands. The examination applies to all 2-wheel vehicles, so normally in the top part of this manual it tells you what it applies to and what it doesn't apply to. So before you get carried away and start going, oh no, I've got to create this stand with a you know, a switch to stop to inhibit the motor and everything else, read on this section here, you know, because it won't always require you to do all these steps. So we're on stands. I'm not going to read all this manual for every part because it would just make the video way too long, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you basically what I've done that covered me and got me through the test. So first up then, the stand. So this is like a motorcycle stand. It's way too big for this bike really, but I've managed to modify it and get it on here. You can get these on eBay. I'm not sure exactly what bike they're for, but it's a popular one anyway. So this stand, it has to have a mechanism to basically hold the stand up in the up position. So you can see mine doesn't spring up on its own, but if you stick it up, it's sprung so that it won't actually fall down when you're riding. Now that's important. So you basically got to have it like that, and also you actually have to have it so that it will hold the bike in all steering positions. So, you know, if you're turning that, it won't go over. It's just got to look like it's stable, you know. They've got to see that it's not gonna, you know, it's not gonna fall over when it's just standing up there on that stand. So that's that. I mean, my tester said he's seen stands where it's held the bike too upright, you know, and it just looked like it was going to fall over the other way. So it's really just kind of common sense, you know. This will hold that bike. There's no question of a doubt. That's fine. Now in that manual, there is something weird which says if it's a centre mounted stand, it's got to fold up when the bike goes forward, which it would. You know, if you've got a centre mounted stand, you know, that's not what we've got here. We've got a prop stand. Now it doesn't flick up when you push the bike over there. It doesn't have to. As long as this stand can't really be left down, you know, and when the bikes move forward, and in this case, if you sit on this bike, it will actually just push this down. So you can't really get on this bike with the stand down. You have to put it up. So you can kind of scrape past that requirement. They also say that this stand has to have a motor inhibit as well. It doesn't have to do that at all. It didn't on my particular test. They weren't interested in that. As long as this stand is safe and it will not allow you to kind of move forward with it down, you should be fine. I would just do exactly the same as what I've done, and I think you should be absolutely fine. Right, so next up we got mirrors. So these are the mirrors that I've got. You can commonly get these. You can get these anywhere, eBay or Amazon again. These have got to be E-marked mirrors. So as long as they've got that mark on there, they should be fine. That doesn't always mean that it's properly E-marked because it could be some Chinese mark, but these mirrors have been known to be okay. What they do on the test is they just test to see if a circle of about, I think it's like 80mm or 85mm, says in the manual, fits inside that mirror area, and also that it's got a kind of concave, I think that's what they test. But they test that. So if you went for these mirrors, you shouldn't have a problem, and they've just got to be fitted well and be in the right place and be able to, you know, you've got to be able to see behind you. I don't think you actually need to have mirrors. I think it's a weird thing with this, but I've put them on here anyway, you know, just to get through here, because it does actually say that you need them on this one. So you can see there's a load of sections here in this manual for bodied vehicles as well, for cars, trikes, things like that. So, you know, field of view. So you're skipping a lot of pages already. Right, speedo then. So the speedometer on these bikes, or if you build a bike like this, normally you have a Sabvoton controller or something like that, which will have its own built-in display. Once you fire this up, you've got speed on here, speedo. So this is fine. This is actually fine. Again, they don't test to see if it's accurate or anything. As long as you've got miles per hour shown on there, and it will boot up in miles per hour. If it boots up in kilometers, you've got a problem. You need to have it booting up in miles per hour. As long as it shows that there and the speed's clearly all the time, then you're good to go. Now, this display is actually on all the time. So there's another area which we'll come to later about the lights, which means that this display needs to be shown at all times. So if you've got like an old-fashioned dial speedo, you would need to have like a backlight on it when you turn the lights on so that you can read it in all conditions. If you've got a TFT display like this, it'll be on all the time, so you're just covered. It's no problem. On my test, he did actually mention about a speed sensor. He said, "Where's the speed sensor?" And I said, "Well, it just comes from the controller." So there's something with that. You might want to look into that if you've got one of these like speed sensors on the front wheel. I'm not sure if you're allowed to have those. I don't know, but he asked me, and this is how I've done it, and it worked, and it passed. The other thing as well, GPS speedos aren't allowed. I mean, I don't think they would know if you just had a GPS speedo and said that it was getting the speed from the motor, because they don't test it. So I think you'd be absolutely fine in that respect as well. Obviously, this needs to be visible at all times. So putting it, you know, down here or something stupid like that, you know, isn't going to work. It needs to be visible. Next one's audible warning, so that's your horn. Need to have a horn on there. I've just used like a normal old, it's like one of those old car ones, or like it's a normal motorcycle one, isn't it? But basically that's wired up there. I love the fact I've got my outdoor slippers there right in view. Yeah, so I've wired this up through the 12 volt thing, so it'll probably be another video. It's got to be fitted, it's got to be secure, it's got to function, it's got to be loud enough, comparable to the machine, emits a sound which is continuous or uniform, capable of being operated with both hands on the steering wheel. There's another thing about the switches and stuff. You do have to make sure that you can reach everything. Not that, because that's like a fan, but anything important you've got to be able to reach from the bars. So make sure you get these switches as far up the bars as you can. Obviously the mirror's there, and then you've got the throttle as well, so it's not always easy. Next up, we've got lighting. Now this can be a bit of a minefield, but really it is simple. You've got to have a front light. On a moped, you've got to have a front light. So you don't have to have side lights. So you don't have to have side lights at all. That is an optional thing. All you've really got to do is have your main light. You know, I've got a main beam on here, which is actually on right now. And you know, if you've got one, they'll just test that to make sure that works. My one's got a telltale on it as well. If you get this switch gear, it'll have that built in. So if you just want to do the bare minimum, you just need that front light. This headlight needs to be E marked, and it needs to be a motorcycle headlight. It can't be like a bike one. Otherwise it's not going to generate the right beam pattern, and they will test that. It's got to be adjustable as well, so you can adjust it, for kind of MOT purposes, and making sure that it is lined up. On my test, he did check the beam alignment. He just shone it up against the wall, not with a meter or anything like that. He just said, yeah, that looks okay. So it's it's quite laid back in that respect. At the back, you need to have a tail light. So that is the tail light there, which comes on with the main one. This is a tail and stop light, as you normally would have on any vehicle. So this will light when the brakes are pressed as well. So that's that. And the number plate light needs to be, you need to have a number plate light. This has got an integrated one. Some of these have. Now, just make sure that it's bright enough and it looks good. I kind of had to demonstrate. He said, where's the number plate light then? I had to demonstrate that by I just said, oh, well, it shines out on there. Look, and just got a bit of paper and shoved it under there, and it lit up. So he was happy with that. Originally, I had indicators on here, but I found it was a bit of a nightmare to mount them. The front ones are okay, but they have to be a certain distance apart, and a certain height, and the same with the back. And I found they were sticking right out here, so I just thought I'd just leave them off, and then I might add them after, and when they can't be tested. So it's a bit easier. But these switches need to be operated easy from the handlebars as well. So get one of these switch gears, it'll be absolutely fine. I've got this all wired up inside. I can just add these indicators, or add indicators when I want to, back on there. But as I say, I just took them off. It's just no point. It's adding extra things in that they might sort of say. But if you find like a tail piece of a bike or something like that, a motorcycle then, or moped, you could probably just use that, because then the distance will be the right distance apart. That's mainly what they test on that. You don't have to have hazards. If it hasn't got hazards, they won't test it. I think they will on a motorcycle, but not on a moped. The stop lamp is actually part of the lighting thing. So I've got Tektro levers, because they have wires. On a normal e-bike, you'd use those to trigger the regen braking, but for this purpose, you can just use it for the stop. So both levers have to make the stop light up, and it's got to be a decent brightness and everything else. Just common sense really. Don't have to have fog lights or anything like that. There is a table on the end of these sections that shows you what's applicable to the type of vehicle that you're trying to do. And so this one, 2-wheel mopeds and low power mopeds, obligatory. So all of that in there. Dip beam, rear position, stop, registration light, non-triangular rear reflector, which I actually forgot about that, and pedal reflectors. Those two they're essential. You'll get through if you have those, and then the rest is optional. Main beam, front position, front indicator, rear indicator, non-triangular front reflector, all that stuff. But you only need that lot there. So non-triangular rear reflector, I've just used the bike reflector, just stuck it on the back. That will probably come off because I've actually got another one down there. I don't know if that one would pass it on its own, but that's just stuck there. It doesn't look particularly great, but that's how it is, and that's what got it through the test, that one there. He was also really surprised that I'd done the reflectors in the pedals. I mean, I didn't do them, I just bought them like this, but I did specifically buy these ones because they had reflectors in them. So that's what you need on both sides for that, and that'll get you through. So then you carry through to, goes on to about quadricycles, which is quite interesting. A little read, I was looking at that because of the Twizy and all the things like that. But yeah, sidecars as well. So, you know, we're on page 63 already. You're scrolling through, and there's a lot more that you scroll through as you get further down. It gets pretty complicated for bodied vehicles and motorcycles. See, look, all this acceptable multi-lamp operation options for 3 and 4 wheeled vehicles. Yeah, loads of stuff we don't need to do. So we're going to keep going. External projections. Now, originally, he did bring this up, but yeah, he did. He mentioned this, but I'd read this already, and it said, where mopeds are fitted with non-retractable pedals, compliance with all requirements is optional. So there you go. Don't have to worry about that one, which is really good because, you know, they will start testing, you know, things like this on motorcycles and stuff that sticks out, you know, especially, you know, these bolt ends and stuff, like anything that's going to hurt you or somebody else if you come off it. But if you've got pedals, I suppose all of that is just going to go out the window. You actually had to go and check with somebody about this because I'd actually read the manual, and that's the importance of reading the manual. I'd read the manual, so I was like, well, it says if you've got pedals, you don't have to worry about that. So it's important to do that, guys, because then you might come across something and you'll be able to say, no, hang on a minute. Right, where are we then? So keep going. See, this is the thing they're talking about on a motorcycle. Somebody's told me they put some kind of sphere or something, and if it catches or grazes this thing, I don't know, but you'd have to have a look at that if you're doing a motorcycle. Rear registration plate space, did pull me up on this because the angle was too much, but he just said that's not going to be a fail because you can just bend it down and there's no plate on there anyway. That can just be bended down. To be honest, I don't think I'll bother. I'll see if I get pulled through or something, because if it does bend down too much, it's going to interfere with that. So especially when the suspension compresses. So again, this is a small vehicle, so they should have different plate sizes for these sort of vehicles. But anyway, reasons for failure. So you've got to have a place to put the number plate for the test, even if you haven't got a number plate, because you won't have one because you won't have a registration number. Handholds. This inspection applies to all two-wheel vehicles where provision is made for the carriage of a passenger. Skip that section. Headlamp pattern. We've gone into that. I mean, I haven't got all of this on my light. I've just got an E on there, but basically that LED light on the front of there, which is like, they call them like day makers on eBay and stuff. You get one of those, it will be fine. You know, even better if you're using like a proper motorcycle one, but then that'll probably be like a halogen one, not an LED one. But that passed absolutely fine, so there's no problem. Design and construction, all vehicles. So I mean, really, this is like a common sense sort of thing. They just go around and just check, you know, the bike is kind of roadworthy. If it looks new like this, then it's going to be no issues. Nothing hanging off. There's nothing like, you know, dodgy, or, you know, no dodgy welds or anything horrendous to look at. You just really, I mean, he was kind of going around my bike just saying, oh, there's not really much I can do. It kind of all looks fine, you know, nothing's hanging off or nasty, so that's sort of fine. One thing you do have to watch for is like cables and stuff like that. I did all this beforehand, and I actually went round and routed all my cables, or routed if you're American, all my cables, and made sure that they all kind of go in here nicely. I've done like kind of rubber, or basically insulating tape around that lot, and then rubber bung on the bit where the motor goes in there. So I did that, and that will just help you out, because I actually had a brake line and it was running, it was actually coming through, where was it? It wasn't routed through there, it was routed on the outside, and I thought, no, that looks like it could kink or something like that. So I've kind of re-routed them all, and that will help you out a lot if you do that, because, you know, the last thing you want to do is get everything else right, and then your cables are, you know, the main bit of an electric bike you've just failed on. So everything's got to be tight and done up, and, you know, not going to flap around. Where are we now? So design and construction still on there. So tyres. Now tyres, I actually sent a picture of these tyres because I wasn't sure, to an email address that I can probably put down below. Actually, if you've got a test booked, then you can use this email address to actually kind of ask questions before the test, and they're really helpful actually. So I took pictures of these tyres because they were from China, but they have got dot marks on them. So as long as they've got dot marks and they show the speed, the ratings, you know, as long as they're just not really dodgy tyres, I think you'll be absolutely fine. But it's got to have dot mark on it. It goes in saying, you know, that only the E mark or JIS or dot. It looks really complicated, but actually if you buy kind of motorcycle tyres, you'll be fine. I think if you've got an E mark on a bicycle tyre, you might even be fine as well. I think bicycle tyres are okay, but you'd have to check that anyway. It's best to ask. See, that like something like that, they have those tyres I've got there have not got that on. So anyway, that's that. Also, make sure it hasn't got any gashes or anything stupid in there if you've been riding it off road. Speed categories, stuff like that. It's not really that's relevant actually. The tyres have got to be rated for the speed, but of course this bike is only going 30 miles an hour, so any tyre is probably going to be fine. So brakes, right? Brakes is an interesting one. So there's a lot of stuff with this. It says, you know, things like you've got to have this ball end on the end there, you know, on the end of brake levers. Again, I use these Tetro ones, which worked out really well because they've got the switches on. They've also got this gauge. And I don't think he tested that. I think this might be a motorcycle thing, but when I originally looked at it, I got these brakes because they've got an oil level, hydraulic oil level in there. But they're full-size levers, not like, I wouldn't have been able to use the Hope ones that I've been using on the other bikes because obviously they haven't got any switches in, but the levers are too small. So get some decent brakes, like anything Magura or Tetro will probably be fine. I did have to sacrifice a bit of stopping power, but they do that, and they will do the stopping test. If you've seen that video, if you've seen the video where they did the test, it looks like it's on a rolling road, but actually that is testing the braking power. And he said, yeah, no problem with the brakes. The brakes stop this thing really, really well. So that's all good. Don't need a parking brake or anything like that. Trying to fit if there's anything else with that. Present complete secure. It needs to be designed suitable to adequately carry out the function for which they're fitted. Made of material. Oh yeah, you can't have hoses, braidless stainless steel brake lines with aluminium fittings are not deemed to be suitable due to the possibility of unseen electrolytic corrosion. So read of that what you will, but basically, yeah, just make sure you just got normal hoses and make sure that the hoses again are kind of routed. And I think that is about it. Reason for failure: one independent braking device acting on the other front wheel. Now there's things like regen braking, which they won't test because they won't have the bike on. But if you've got the bike on, they put it on that rolling road, then it is going to put a braking force on that wheel the faster that rolling road goes. So that might cause you problems. You'll be better off just remembering to turn the bike off. Otherwise you might come across problems with that. But other than that, as long as they look like they work, should be alright. Here you go. Hydraulic, there you go. It'll fail for any hydraulic and vacuum brake pipe or hose. Fouling, kinked, inadequate secured. Cable tie everything. Make sure everything's nicely cable tied and it's not rubbing on anything as well. What I did under here, because these bolts were going through, you know, through here, I've actually got this running. This is the motor wire running under here, and I was a bit paranoid about that, so I just made this like kind of little gaiter thing to go round it to stop it. As long as I can see you've taken some measures to protect wires from getting chafed and stuff like that, then that covers that. Radio suppression, that doesn't affect anything. They don't test that. Exhaust, there's no exhaust, funnily enough. You know, spark ignition, nothing. It hasn't got spark plugs. So there's loads of stuff. Diesel, you know, exhaust emissions. Just skip over that. Go flying past it all. Brake performance, covered that. Oh yeah, there's a thing about goods vehicle identification plate. It's not a goods vehicle, so it doesn't have to have one of them. Doesn't have to have a motor plate, that's fine, but if it has got one, make sure it doesn't probably show more than 4,000 watts because that's going to be glaringly obvious. The VIN number I did in there, you know, that was stamped on by an MOT station. He was a little bit concerned about the letters being big enough for that. So, you know, it's better to have it stamped on the actual frame because then it can't be seen that it's going to come off in some, you know, way. I did get a little plate made up from eBay. You can get a little plate with the VIN number on it, which you can stick on there. I'm not sure if you'll get away with it like that because it won't look permanent unless you maybe rivet it on or something. But that was okay. A little bit questionable because the letters were a bit small, as I say, but don't have to worry about any of this. Engine power restriction information plate, don't have to do that. It's just done on the declaration, so as long as you say it doesn't go faster than 30 miles an hour, it's fine. And because it's electric as well, so it doesn't apply. Defrost and demist, well, I haven't got one of those unless you have it on your visor. Seat belts, hasn't got those, that's for sure. What else are we on? Getting near to the end, 193 pages. Windscreen wipers, no, ain't got those. Masses and dimensions. There's not really any limit on sizes or weights. You know, not that we're going to be concerned about, because it's not going to be over 200. What is it? Hang on a minute. Two-wheel motor as manufacturer's declaration. Yeah, so as long as you put the weight on your declaration of what it is, they weigh it anyway at the weighing bridge. But you won't have a problem. It's not going to be overweight. Never going to have that issue. And that's it. We're at the end. So that is basically it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Just going over it. They won't take the sides off. They won't look inside the bike or anything like that. They wouldn't really know what they're probably looking at anyway, because, you know, this is something new. There's no like power test, as I've said. They don't do anything like that, so you haven't got to worry about that. I would just do it anyway. Restrict the bike to 30 miles an hour and 4,000 watts. Oh yeah, another thing, you can ride the bike to the test, but good luck finding any insurance that will cover you on just the VIN number. And then you'd have to obviously have a helmet on as well, unless you pedalled it. Insurance I will be covering on a video. I've found someone that will cover e-bikes, and they've given me a reasonable quote on that, but I'm trying to work out like a little kind of sponsorship thing for that, so we can promote them in the next video and you guys can go there and hopefully get your insurance without hassles, because I have had to send pictures of this bike to the insurance company and stuff like that, just so that they kind of know what it is. But yeah, it was no problem. It's, you know, it was done in one phone call, so I will be giving more info. Right, camera battery ran out, sorry about that. One last thing I just remembered, the mud guards or fenders. So he did pull me up on this, saying that the edge, you know, is too sharp, should be rounded, but he said you could just put a bit of tape over that and it'll be fine, so he didn't fail for that. And also you could just take it off, you know, you just don't actually have to have them. But he said, you know, that's something to watch. Obviously this bit as well at the back, but I don't think you should have problems. If you're in doubt, I'll just leave them off. Yeah, so that's about it, I think. I've bound to have forgotten something. If there's something you want to know, let me know down in the comments. But essentially, none of the things that you would probably think that are tested are actually tested. It's quite old school, and it's quite laid back as well, the whole test. So, you know, I don't think you'd have a problem. As long as you don't wheel in something that hasn't got a headlight or something really obvious, I think it'd be absolutely fine. So yeah, that's about it for this one. Hope you found it interesting. Help you get your bikes on the road if that's the route you want to go. And yeah, don't forget, follow me on Instagram, like and subscribe, all the usual stuff on YouTube as well. Also I'm on Twitter as well, and all the other socials. And I'll catch you in the next video.